Hey everyone, this is Darcinovia here. This is my review on the very first issue of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Um, for you casual TMNT fans out there was a comic book before there ever was a cartoon. It was underground and it was self-published by Peter Laird and Kevin Eastman back in 1984. And why am I reviewing this specific issue specifically? Well, it's significant because without this issue, well, I would be making this video. And some of the stuff that went behind this issue is interesting in itself. The edition of the first issue I have is in the Ultimate Collection, which at the end of each issue, there's an annotation that talks about the creative process behind each of these issues. Now, what makes this interesting is the people that they were inspired by. Of course, for us more hardcore TMNT fans, this is common knowledge. But if you've only seen the 2003 or 2012 series, but you never ventured outside, TMNT, other than that, you wouldn't know that TMNT, the very first issue, was a parody of Daredevil. I mean, if you actually know anything about Daredevil, which I had to research certain things about Daredevil because I barely read any Daredevil comics, like The Foot, which is a parody of The Hand, and Daredevil Splinter, which is a parody of Matt Murdock's mentor, Stick. So there's subtle, references, to Daredevil. It's heavily in this issue. And Jack Kirby, which I did not know that until I read this issue, in the Ultimate Collection. Now, the very first issue, how does it hold up after over 30 years? Well, the art, I think, holds up really well. It's not everyone would appreciate the art like I do, but telling by the first panel, I think this art's amazing, in my opinion. I like the dark and gritty style. And you wouldn't know this, but Peter Laird and Kevin Eastman, they did this together, and they both had their own thing in each of these panels. It's very interesting. Of course, some of you who've seen the movie Turtles Forever are familiar with this shot. The plot of this issue is pretty basic. It was never intended to be any more than a one-shot, but it explains the origins of the Turtles and Splinter and Hamato Yoshi, the Shredder. And this entire thing, there's so many similarities between Daredevil and TMNT, that it's amazing they didn't get sued. The art style is not for everyone, but I personally love it. I love the dark and gritty atmosphere of this comic. As a standalone story, I think it's pretty fun. Honestly, I don't think it's the greatest TMNT story ever written. I think there's far better, but I think it does its job. I do enjoy this story. And this is back in the days when the Turtles actually killed people mercilessly. They weren't like they are now. This is the Shredder. And if you're familiar with the first TMNT movie in 1990, that's the closest we ever got to seeing the comic book look of the Shredder. Now, here's another awesome panel for this issue. This art is just gorgeous, in my opinion. I really love the art style for this comic. Some people may not dig it because it's not. It may look ugly to them, but I don't. But I like the dark and gritty style. And yes, this is in my opinion, I think it's a pretty good issue, especially the first issue, honestly. And what could have easily been a forgotten comic in the 80s turned out to be the biggest phenomenon in this history of the world. Now, this issue, what things are important. Well, the Shredder made his first appearance and his last. Well, not really his last. He does come back, but I'll get to that if I ever review that issue. This is also the only incarnation of the franchise where the Turtles wear all red headbands. You wouldn't be able to tell because of the black and white, art. But in the covers of every one of these issues, the Turtles' headbands are all red. Now, it's obvious why in other incarnations that came after it, why they had the multicolored headbands that we all know today. Anyway, this is started off as a parody, and it turned into something huge. I thought it was pretty good, the first issue. I give it a B plus. I mean, the story isn't the most amazing in the world. The Turtles kind of lack kind of a personality, but considering that this was a self-published issue, a one-shot that was intended to be just a one-shot, which explains why the Shredder's dead throughout most of Mirage TMNT. I think it was pretty good for a first issue, honestly. And I would check it out as a TMNT fan. It's not that hard to find, at least the story isn't. There's multiple formats you can read in. I mean, the first issue is probably that, believe it or not, is the least rare of all the issues of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles in the Mirage run. It's so easy to find. It's been reprinted more times than any of the issues in the history of this franchise. In fact, issue 1's not even that rare, with the exception of the original 3000 print run. That's the only one that's really rare. It's not that hard to find, the very first issue. And not to mention, you may be able to find it for free on Scanlations at some sites. But if you're physical like me, if you really want to read the first issue, there's two formats you can get it in. I have the paperback because it was cheaper. I got this for $30. I think it's a good deal. Along with issue 1, you get the other issues that come with it, along with the Raphael one-shot, which is the first appearance of Casey Jones, which I'll get to that issue when I review it. Anyway, people, this is Darcinovia over and out, and expect more of these reviews of the Mirage TMNT. I tend to review as many issues as I possibly can. Peace out, everyone.